Beautiful mamas. Have I got anybody here live with me today? I don't know if I seem a bit too far away. I'll just move a bit forward. There we go. So today we're going to talk about decluttering to de-stress. I recently had a mindful mamas circle at my house, and this was the topic. But we got chatting and having a bit too much fun that we didn't actually get around to talking about the topic that we had in mind. So, hi, Teresa. So I was just saying, Teresa, that this was a topic we were supposed to cover in our Mama Circle the other week. And as we didn't get around to that, then I thought I'd do a Facebook Live on it. And interestingly, a couple of Facebook posts have sort of been posted by friends of mine over the last week or so on this exact topic. So it's been really good to see that it's actually a thing. People are going through this or recovering from this in terms of, getting less cluttered in their life. And I was doing a little bit of research as well, and it's scientifically proven that clutter does stress us out. And that can be not just physical clutter, not just the clutter that we have around our house. I grew up with a grandmother who was a hoarder and my mother who's a hoarder. And so for me, like clutter, to me, when I hear the word clutter, I do think physical. I think my house, or their house or whatever, and or my desk or, the kitchen or the pantry. So for me, it's quite a physical thing. But clutter can be what takes up space in our head as well. It can be digital clutter. And, so I want to talk today about some ways that we can help reduce the clutter in our lives. Interestingly enough, too, one of the articles that I read was saying that the physical clutter around the house seems to stress women out more than it does men. Men tend to not even notice. So I'm not sure if that would surprise you, but it definitely doesn't surprise me. I do know a few neat freak guys, but not many, and most of them, don't even notice that the house is cluttered. They're happy to just sort of walk by or dump stuff wherever. So it does tend to be the women, and we probably tend to be the ones who have a bit more of the mind clutter going on as well, just simply because we have so much to do in our lives. Hi, Michelle, nice to see you there. Okay, so where could we, this is such a big topic, but where do we start? I like to talk a lot about digital clutter because I think that is sort of one of the biggest things in our lives these days, or it can be if we let it. And some of the clutter can be the things that fill up our email inbox. It can be the Facebook feeds if you're on Facebook a lot, just the noise that goes on there, and that can be just the general feed, but the notifications can be clutter. And you know how it is, you look at your phone and you see that little red circle to show that you've got notifications, and you're like, you stress out if you don't get to it, or you've got to get to it. I don't know, it's not just Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be Twitter, it could be any of those things. And some people might be good at, not even noticing or looking at those. But I do find that, I like to use Facebook, one, to keep up with family and friends, and two, for my business. And then, when I've got a whole bunch of notifications coming through, it does really clutter my head. So some of the things that I've learned in terms of reducing the digital clutter is with emails. Over the last 12, probably unsubscribed from about 100 or more different newsletters that I'd signed up for over the years. So I've had my particular email address since 1999. And I know that because, was it 99? 98 actually, because it was just before my first big overseas trip, and I wanted to have an email address. So and so I've signed up for stuff over the years, and things just keep popping up in my inbox. But I've made a conscious effort, if I'm constantly deleting the same things all the time and just not even reading them, now instead of just deleting them, I go in and I unsubscribe first. And that way, those ones don't come back to me again. But I'm still finding more and more stuff that just keeps coming up And yeah, that's why I've probably unsubscribed to so many. But it's a conscious thing because I don't like to keep sort of either scrolling past them or deleting them. I just don't want to deal with them anymore. Our preferences change, so we don't necessarily want to read the same stuff that we did 20 years ago. Yeah, so that can be one way of reducing some of your digital clutter. And another one is you can turn off your notifications. So you can turn them off in a broad sense. You can go into your phone and for each app just turn off notifications if that suits you best. Otherwise, within each app, there's ways that you can. Yes, Teresa, I agree. Yeah. So within each app, you can turn off notifications for certain things. So Facebook being one of the main ones I use, I can turn off notifications for some of the groups, or I can turn off, like I can only see, key posts, and that might be from people that I know or from the actual person who runs the group. And that means I don't see all of the comments and every single person's post that goes into the group, so I can be specific that way. I also find just on your personal friend feeds, if someone has a baby or gets married or, and you say congratulations, well, so do 100 other people, right? And every time someone, just after you post, every time someone posts after that, you get the notification. And so you can actually turn off notifications for each individual post. And I've been doing that more and more often as well. So I'll make a comment on a post and then I'm like, right, I don't want to know who else comments on this. So I'll just turn off the notification. And Facebook has made that really easy. Like the first time it comes up in your notification list, you can just click on the little dots on the right hand side and just turn off notifications. So that's a really cool way to do it. Same with how people like to do the personal messages in groups. And so one person will post something and then everybody starts to comment and you're like, actually, I don't need to see everyone's comments. So you can turn off the notifications for those chats as well. And it might seem like it's a bit of work, but it's actually more annoying to have the phone beeping at you or buzzing or, so many notifications, coming through when you scroll for specific ones or something. So I find they're just a couple of ways of reducing some of the digital clutter. So now we'll talk about just maybe some general mind clutter, what clutters up our mind and how could we possibly reduce that. And again, as mums, I think we're just constantly thinking about things, what's for breakfast, what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what else do we need when we go to the shops, what school excursions are coming up, what camps are coming up, do I need to organise any birthday presents for any parties that are coming up, what do my kids want to do this weekend, I've got bills to pay, have I picked up the dry cleaning, the list could go on and on and on. So I find for me one way of managing that is to have to-do lists. And some people like the digital version, but for me that's just more digital clutter. I sort of like good old-fashioned, write it down in a notebook or on a whiteboard at home. And what it does is it gets the clutter out of my head and it puts it onto paper and it makes it just a little bit more manageable. I find I go to sleep at night now not thinking about all the things I've got to do because it's actually all written down for me for ready for tomorrow. I do have a really, really, really long to-do list, and then I break that down to what do I want to try to achieve this month or this week, and then I've got the the each day, the day-to-day stuff. But to make it even easier and make the clutter sort of less even on your to-do list, I kind of split it in two. I have a must-do list. The things that I just absolutely have to do. I have to pay the bills. I maybe have to take my kid to the doctor, or I've got to do the grocery shopping. I don't know. They're just some examples. But you have some must-dos, things that you just cannot wait or cannot go on the any other list. And then you've got the things that are kind of nice to do. It's like, for me, it's like, oh, I want to watch that webinar, I want to read a book, or I want to watch that series on TV, or they're just nice to dos. So I put the nice to-do list away so it doesn't clutter up what I actually have to get done. And then it's like, oh, I've ticked off all my must-dos. Let me see what's on my nice to-do list. And if I've got a bit of time, then I can do one of those. So that's just another thing that helps. And something else, or two other things that I found really helpful in decluttering your to-do list is to delegate. So find other people who can help you do stuff, and your kids can be those people sometimes. Michelle, I know you've got some older kids, so you know, there's probably a bit more you can delegate to them. The younger kids, there's still stuff they can do. And, you know, I find, you know, the physical clutter can happen with toys and clothes and everything, particularly younger kids. So you get the kids to clean it up. You don't be the one running around after them or constantly nagging them. You know, I've built it into my my pocket money program. So I've got like you know, might think this is a bit crazy, but my kids get like a base wage. And for their base wage, there's some must-dos that they've got to do throughout the week. And that's like, they've got to put their dirty washing in the washing basket. They've got to take their plates and forks to the kitchen after dinner. They've got to take out the rubbish. They've got to take this notifications and lunchboxes out of their bags when they get home every day. You know, those sort of things. So they get their base wage for that. And then there's some other chores, and they're optional. But if they want to earn a bit of extra pocket money, then they can do those chores. And that might be cleaning out all the stuff, you know, toys and rubbish from the car, or it might be taking out the big wheelie bin or bringing that back in, or helping load or unload the dishwasher, something like that. So they're kind of, you know, age appropriate, right? Like bigger kids could be doing the dishes, you know, as part of their base wage. And yeah, so that's delegation. Obviously, if you've got or family and friends who can help out. For me, I don't have my partner here anymore, and I also don't have a lot of close family. So I delegate, like I hire a cleaning lady. You know, I'm still working and I've got kids and I'm trying to do a business. So, right, what can I delegate? So I get a cleaning lady in once every 2 weeks, and that just takes a whole sort of, you know, well, she does it all in 2 hours, what would probably take me 6 or 8 hours. So, you know, I think that's totally worth it for me. But yeah, so delegation. And the other cool thing that I'm getting better at and that I wanted to share with you is to say no. So if people ask you to do stuff or invite you out or whatever, and if it just feels like, you know, it's cluttering up your life by doing all these things, then don't do it. I learned from a webinar once a really cool saying: no is a complete sentence. So you don't have to explain why you're saying no. You can just say no. You know, usually we feel like we need to explain, you know, but if you're busy already and people are asking you to do more stuff, then, and you're not feeling up to it, you've already got enough of your own stuff to do, then just say no. So there we go. We've talked about the digital clutter, the mind clutter, and hopefully a few tips there to help you with things. And then you've got the physical clutter. I think, you know, particularly parents tend to have a bit more clutter around the house than the single or the, you know, the couples with no kids that I know. So, you know, I like to employ a few strategies. For me, if I'm going to go out and buy new clothes, either for my kids or myself, I first look through what I've got, and you know, do I have like undies in my drawer where the elastic's, you know, gone and I don't actually wear them anymore? It's like, okay, well, time to throw them out. Or have the kids got clothes that don't fit them anymore? Okay, it's time to move them onto a new home. Or, you know, if they've got holes all through them, whatever, it's time to throw them away. So I kind of do that on the go, like, so then I don't feel like I have this great big chore sort of once every few months to clean out clothes. You know, kids grow so fast, you have to do it quite regularly anyway. But it's like, I pull something out and it's like, okay, that doesn't fit anymore. Right, I've got like a staging area in my whole cupboard for all the clothes that I do want to sort of put in a drop box or give to charity. Yeah, so, you know, but at least it's out of my kids' drawer. I'm not having to sift through stuff that doesn't fit them every morning. I've actually moved it into the staging area. And toys is another one. And this is something I like to do with my kids. You know, we pick once or twice a year, either before sort of birthdays or before Christmas. And we're like, right, what toys could we give to other kids, you know, that we don't play with anymore? And so we get a box out and we, you know, put the toys in there that they're not interested in anymore. But then we could sort of move on to, yeah, charity, or, you know, especially at Christmas time, if they're good, still in good condition, there's definitely heaps of charities that you can give to that can then re-gift them for Christmas and things like that. And I like to do that with my kids because it also teaches them about giving, and yeah, and that, you know, they don't have to keep everything and clutter up the house as well. And then there's the pantry. So my tip for the pantry is I usually have the one I'm using and a spare. And that could relate to, I don't know, sauce or spices or, I don't know, spaghetti or whatever. And if it's sauces, like I usually wait until I'm sort of, halfway through one before I buy the next one. So I'm not constantly having 2 or 3 bottles of sauce, waiting until I finish this one and then buying another one when I go shopping next. Or, I'm not cluttering up my pantry with a whole bunch of stuff. My mum does this, and she's got like 3 refrigerators and 3 freezers, and her pantry, like seriously, stuff falls out of it when you open it up. And it's, and every time she moves, and she does that a lot as well, she goes through her pantry and she throws out all these cans of food that she's have gone by their use by date. She's got so much food in there that she doesn't know what she's got, and she just keeps buying stuff and putting it at the front. There's no sort of first in, first out method. And so, yeah, I feel that there's a lot of wastage that goes with that, not to mention that when you open the cupboard, your mind just, can't compute. So that's why, with my pantry, I've got the one and a spare. I know for those of us who live in Wellington or other earthquake may have a little stash of extra goodies that we keep for if there happens to be an earthquake and we can't go shopping for a few days or whatever. That's sort of a little bit different. I don't call that clutter. That's just emergency funds or emergency supplies. Yeah, so, but otherwise, yeah, the one you're using in a spare is usually a good tip there. And I don't know about you, but, there's kitchen benches tend to get quite cluttered just with bits and pieces. Again, it's kind of like if you can clean as you go kind of concept. If you don't need all those little things that do up the bread. If some people like to collect them in a little jar, it's like, why? Maybe you can get rid of them or use them for craft, like, if you're still doing craft with the younger kids. I find my desk can be a sort of a clutter area, like stuff from the letterbox, notifications from school, bills to pay, whatever, else it looks like paper kind of ends up on my desk. So again, it's like, okay, if the kids have got notices that come home from school, it's like I can't try and deal with them at the time, and then I don't have to sort of put them on a pile for later. Same with the mail when that comes in. It's really, I worked in a restaurant for a long time, and we had this big concept of clean as you go. So I try and apply that to pretty much everything I do at home. It's like clean as you go, or, like declutter as you go. And for me, that just sort of helps me be less stressed because there's sort of less to sort of look at and think, oh, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do that. I'm kind of doing it as I go. At the moment, I've got a big 1,000-piece puzzle on my lounge room floor, and that at the moment is stressing me out because it looks like clutter because I haven't done it yet. But I then try and think, actually, I started that as a mindfulness activity so I could just focus on my puzzle. And that's cool. When I'm actually doing it, I do feel the mindfulness. But when I'm not doing it, it's like, there's that puzzle I haven't done yet. So, yeah, if things like that stress you out, don't do it. Or, try and get your puzzle done sooner or something. So yeah, it kind of is a little bit about, what works for you. And I think sometimes the size of your house can have an impact as well. I've got a friend who has a smaller house, but, all the stuff she's got, she actually needs. It's like, if you don't have somewhere to hang all your jackets by the door and they're all just sort of in a big pile somewhere, then that might seem like clutter, but it's, so it might just depend on where you live as well. We all do the best with what we've got. So, don't let that be a stress. I try and do little things like if I don't have a hook on the wall, like for the jackets or whatever, I'll put some hooks up and try and make it a little bit neater, rather than a big pile on the floor. I used to have a big corner just through the shoes, but now I've got like a little 5-tier thing to put my shoes on. So now they don't sort of seem like they're all messy in a big pile in the corner. And it might sound like I'm a little bit OCD, but it works for me. And if you can chill with a little less, more clutter around than me, then that's fine too. It's like I said, individual. So they're my tips for today. Just recapping, the digital clutter, so we can reduce that by unsubscribing to emails and turning off notifications on our applications, our social media. And then we've got the mind clutter, which we can use to-do lists for, and we can also delegate and learn to say no. And then we've got the physical clutter, where, you know, if we just try and do a bit more cleaning as we go, or the pantry thing, you know, just have the one you're using in a spare, get the kids to help you declutter the toys and their clothes. You know, they can be the ones to say, hey, this doesn't fit anymore, and go and put it in the pile to go to the charity. So yeah, if you've got any other tips, then please feel free to share either now or later in the comments. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you for joining. You're welcome, Teresa. Thanks for being here, Teresa, Michelle, and we'll hopefully others get to catch up a little bit later. Okay, that's it from me for tonight. Take care. Bye. I can't seem to turn this off. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.